Hello and welcome back to our watch along, final one for the day. And we are just here to give you an update as to what has happened and what we can expect in that second, in that match between India as well as Sri Lanka. I think things have turned out, I think, not too bad for Sri Lanka, like we had, anticipated earlier on today and had guessed that. Okay, cool. They will get the points that they need to get. Also those wickets as well. What do you make of that? The game so far.
So far, I'm really loving what's happening out there at the field, in the sense that I'm seeing the way what I initially predicted about the way Sri Lanka is going to do their bowling, in the sense that they managed to remove their Indians opener, Roti Sharma, who's the captain,
Yeah.
right, with less than 50 runs. That's something amazing, really,
Yeah.
because in the sense that they knew at the moment they leave him is going to make the damage the same way they let loose of Virat Kohli. But the fact that they managed to restrict all the players from the first batsman to the last person, no one has over a century runs, which is something good and something positive coming from the Sri Lankans, and no one was expecting that. That the highest right now, based on the stats I'm seeing, he has 92, and
Yes.
it's Shubha Gill, and no one was expecting that because everyone was all talking about Virat Kohli
And Sharma.
and Sharma
Yeah.
only, but forgetting about Shubha Gill, and he proved that he's one of the top people, and he has the highest number of fours, and the sixes, they come from Leia, who has 82 runs as well, of 56. So it shows how what we are discussing earlier on, that in the first power play or the second power play, India has those explosive throws and the hitting where they have more sixes and fours compared to the singles and the second ones.
And of course, we have to come back and give credit to the man who just knew how to take out all the key players for India.
Definitely.
That being Madhushankar, now being the leading wicket taker in
Mhm.
all in the overall tournament of the Cricket World Cup with 17 wickets,
Yeah.
taking out Virat Kohli just before he could score his century, taking
Yeah.
out Jill Shipman as well just before they can get their centuries.
Mhm.
If Virat Kohli had scored a century today, it would have been his fourth one, and
Wow.
obviously that would have been historic.
Mm.
However, looking at the last three matches that India have played,
Mhm.
teams now know how to tame Virat Kohli. They know that you don't have to give him the obviously wherever that he will be able to capitalize on that. Looking at the game against Australia, he scored 85 runs,
Mhm.
almost 100, but not to be against New Zealand as well, 95 runs, and today against Sri Lanka, close but not so
So
much
close.
with 88 runs. So
Mhm.
it's more like people know what to do when they play against India.
Definitely, it's one of those. Not everyone was participation in the sense that more like looking forward to what Sri Lanka could have done, in the sense that they didn't know which bowlers were going to cause the havoc in the Indian squad batting lineup, in the sense that they were not really paying attention. They were just
Yeah.
seeing the one team only, but focused, forgetting about what can these other teams can do. Like right now, if India is not careful, especially the bowling,
Yeah.
they need. If they're not careful with the Sri Lankans batsmen, they might be in trouble because they've got that explosive as well. They've got the same technique of the batting, same as them. So if they don't take them out early as well in this second innings, that means it's going to be a close one, like the way he had predicted. That yes, they've set up the 300 plus score up there,
Yeah.
but they've got also a stronger backbone for the Sri Lankans as well.
Speaking about that 350 plus score, we
Mhm.
see that India scored a 357. So obviously, Sri Lanka have got a lot of chasing to do. Looking at all the stats dating back to when this World Cup started, Sri Lanka is yet to win a match by a 300 plus runs. So
Mhm.
this is definitely a test. Do you think that they could overcome and pass this test?
Definitely, if they manage to test all the players from India, from the first opener to literally all the people, all the players played today, that was something good and something show to see that they're being tested, how much strength they have. And when it comes to their side, I'm sure it's going to be another tough one because everyone will be given a chance now to see what they can put on the table right there.
And definitely we'll see who will come
Definitely.
up on top of that one.
And also the other thing, we get to answer most of the questions where they say, can the Indian bowlers contain the Sri Lankans, since they have the betting lineup of Mendes,
Yeah.
Putna, Sanka, and Avash Freedom. Yeah, the names, that's tricky, but it's one of those are the top guys at the front there. So it's a matter of how are they going to dance to the Indian tune now.
So it's definitely not going to be easy also for
No.
India to try and tame
No.
the Sri Lankans. Looking at the most runs right now, Virat Kohli did try today,
Mhm.
but he still has a long way to go because Quinton de Kock leads that table with 545 runs,
Wow.
and Virat Kohli coming second with 419. So obviously, with a few more games to go, we'll get to see if he can get himself over. Although I feel like that would be a lot to ask from him, but not really a lot to ask him because he knows how to get the points, he knows how to get the runs. So we'll see how it will end come towards the end of the tournament. Because Quinton de Kock is also just on a run.
Yeah,
You've got
definitely.
at number three with 415, you've got Ravidra as well, New Zealand. At number four with 413, David Werner of Australia, and of course
Mhm.
the last one on that list being an Indian again,
Wow.
Rohit Sharma, who also knows how to get the runs on the board. Let's talk about the match at hand.
Mhm.
Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
They are chasing at 357. What do they have to do to make sure that they, win that match? Because this is actually a do or die for them. If they don't win this match, if they fail to win this match, then they are definitely eliminated from the competition, from the tournament. The semi-final spot is
Listen.
impossible to achieve after this.
Yeah, definitely. But what they're supposed to do, there's no way out here really, besides putting out their ultimate best, because it's either you're in or you're in. There's no out
There's no
really,
doubt.
because the only way out is through the crease, and that's you setting up that tone and making sure you have everyone's back. In the event that someone else is lacking on one area, you need, it's your responsibility to carry someone's burden as well. So it's one of those, yes, it might have bad days like what happened right now with the Indian, that their opener came out early. But for them, it's one of those, you can't rely on one person because anything can happen to those key players. So as an individual, even if you're a bowler, it's not your role, yes, but you're part of the team. So it's as well. Which is
Hello, hello, hello. Just keep quiet. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. Hope this will work. Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Hello and welcome to the last edition of today's match between India and Sri Lanka. As things stand, not looking too good for Sri Lanka, right? But we'll talk about that. First of all, let's go through what happened in that India in the first innings of that match. And of course, we've seen Rohit Sharma coming on just being denied a century, as well as Virat Kohli being denied another century. He's missed out on 3 centuries so far.
Yeah.
So if he had scored a century today, it would have been the 50th one, the 49th one for him. So as things stand, if he had converted the chances when he had against Australia and New Zealand, he would have gotten himself the 52nd one today.
Well, it's not a bad thing per se. Yes, he wanted to score those, to break those records all the time. But I feel the way he performed today, based on the pressure which was out there, he really did well. And also the partnership they created together with Shabagil, they had a partnership of 189 of 179 balls. That shows, I'm sure they've been the highest partnership right now so far in this tournament, and so far so good. And this literally built their background for their base for the team per se. Yeah, for the match.
Yes, let's get a different perspective from a man who knows the sport really well and has worked at the Channel 4 in the UK. He'll talk to us about that match, how it was for India, and how horrible it is currently going for Sri Lanka. David Brooks joins me live from London. David Brooks, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you very much. I actually am enjoying this because if you think about the Asia Cup final when Sri Lanka were bowled out for 50, and the last 2 games represents what, 53 runs, 14 wickets. So that's Sri Lanka's recent record against India. And Mohammad Siraj, he must absolutely love bowling against the Sri Lankans.
Just talk to me about obviously Virat Kohli, the key player of India, being denied yet another century this time around. Is that in any way affecting his performance?
Oh, I don't think so. I think Virat Kohli did everything that you could possibly want from him today. You know, this is a wicket, as we're seeing now, where you need to play very carefully. And I think in his innings today, you saw him build an innings, and that 90 odd or 80 odd is so valuable in the context of this match. We've seen how difficult Sri Lankans can't get it off the square.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, as things stand, not looking too good for Sri Lanka right now. But before we get into that, we have to talk about the key player and the wicket taker for Sri Lanka in Madhushanka. What a great performance he's put out through today. What do you make of him and his performance today?
Well, at least he's put his hand up to say, I want to be part of this Sri Lanka team moving forward after the World Cup. But the way they've performed in this tournament, you can't think that too many players are going to survive. And the coach, Chris Silverwood, I'm afraid he's from England. He wasn't.
He's very good.
He was previously coach of England, and that wasn't a success. He was the coach before the current lot took over. And well, he's got his head in his hands in the dugout there, in the Sri Lanka dugout. He's now the coach of Sri Lanka, and he must be looking at an uncertain future because the Sri Lanka performance in this World Cup has been so disappointing. Bear in mind, you know, it's not only a few years ago that Sri Lanka won the World Cup and did so well, and they were one of the leading one-day international sides. And now they're probably, apart from England, the worst team in the
this time around, just struggling to get a win for themselves. And of course, if they do lose this one today, then that semi-final spot is as good as done.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just a question of when this game will be wrapped up. You know, I don't know what your plans are this evening, but it doesn't look like this game's going to be going on too long. so you could get some extra free time in, because the way these wickets are falling, it's not going to take very long for India to complete this absolute humiliation of Sri Lanka, and the Indian bowlers look fantastic form.
And of course, you're talking about India pulling out a fantastic performance yet again. David, they've played really well so far. If they do win today's 8/8 on home soil, will we be seeing India doing what they did in the 2011 World Cup when they hosted it right here on home soil?
I think the only team that can come between India and a final and the World Cup now is South Africa, because they've been playing so well. And we're going to see on Sunday, I think it is, the dress rehearsal for what looks like being the final, India versus South Africa in the group stages. And I think that's the only team that can come between India and lifting the trophy. And I think I'd love to see India win, because I think that would be great for 50 over cricket. It'd be great for 50 over cricket, because everyone's going on about T20, T20, T20. But this 50 over format, it's more like a test match, what we're watching at the moment. And I think all cricket fans will like the fact that it's not just a T20 hit. There's more to it than that. They need to play well, and you need to bat sensibly, and the ball's moving around. It's difficult batting conditions. It's more like a test match. And the way that Siraj and Bumrah are bowling is test cricket.
Yeah.
And it reminder that 50 over format is a great format. And if India lift the trophy, then the future of 50 over cricket will be assured. Just like when they won the T20 World Cup, everything then was around T20. So I think it'd be great for the one-day international 50 over game if India do lift the trophy. And as I say, I think only South Africa can come between them.
I love what you're saying, but you are speaking to a South African right here, but I will not be getting into that. You mentioned something that I love. You said that South Africa is the only team standing before India and that trophy. Going into the match between the two teams on Sunday, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, India will be interesting, because South Africa have been so good batting first that India are going to have to bat first if they win the toss, because it seems as though South Africa can knock up 350 plus every time they go out there. De Kock's already got 4 centuries.
Yeah.
As Tasnim was saying earlier. So, the only chance, the best chance India have would be getting South Africa to chase. And then, the South Africa setup, and the history of joking when they're trying to get close to a winning score. But that's not this side. How many of this team will have been involved in those losses in the past? Not many. It's a young side, and I would love to see Bavuma lifting that trophy. Aside from India, that's the team I'm backing.
And I love that. A lot of people do call South Africa, the chokers, especially in the semifinals. And you mentioned a very important point right now, that this is a very different squad, very young blood in that one. So it's definitely going to be game on. And I have to agree with you that it's definitely not going to be an easy one for India. But like you have said, that for South Africa to win, they will have to bat first. So should things not go that way, should India win the toss and decide to bat first, do you think that it's going to be a problem for South Africa chasing whatever score that will be set?
Well, it's going to be the biggest test they've had so far. Can they survive this opening bowling spell from Bumrah and Siraj, and indeed Shami? Not forgetting Shami's performance against England. I'll put this question to you. Have the South African top order got the technique to cope with this type of bowling in the first 10 overs?
I missed the last part.
I'm saying, as a South African, I'm going to ask you the question. Do you think that the South African top order has got the technique to withstand the bowling of Siraj, Bumrah and Shami in the first 10 overs?
That will be a beautiful test. And I do believe that in all the the batters that we have, we can do the job. But we'll have to see what happens in that game on Sunday. But I do believe, of course, as a South African, I'm going to be biased and say that they will withstand whatever test that will be coming to them. So to answer your question, I do think so, David. In a very
I'm
biased
glad you
answer,
said
I
that.
will say yes.
I think so too, because these are all multi-format players. These aren't T20 players. The likes of Bavuma, De Kock, Van der Nussen, Klaassen. These are all format players, right? And they haven't got where they are today without having a good defense. And they're going to need that defense to withstand the Indian opening attack. Because if you look, India doing all the damage in the first 10 overs. We all expected the spinners to do the job with Jadeja, etc., and Kuldeep. But it's actually the pacers who are doing the damage. And I didn't mention Markram, of course, who is a test match opener, I think. So you've got Markram coming in at 5, and he's got test match experience too. So I'm in agreement with you. I think South Africa will put up one hell of a better performance than we've seen from Sri Lanka and England.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. And I will be bringing you back because you've made it very clear that you think India is going to win this one against South Africa. However, if they do not win this one, would you say that it would have been the right match for India to lose? Maybe that will bring them down to earth and possibly go back to the drawing board just before the all-important semi-finals, because in the knockout stages, there is no room at all for mistakes.
Well, India have got a game against Netherlands on Sunday. So they've got, no, sorry, they're playing, where is it now? I'm ahead of myself. They've got South Africa this Sunday. So we'll see then. India can afford to lose that, but then they'll be in second place in the group, not first place. And then they've got Netherlands the following Sunday on the 12th of November. So if they're going to lose any match, I guess it should be the one against Netherlands. But I just can't see that. I think India will, we'll learn a lot more after Sunday, won't we? It's going to be a dress rehearsal for the likely final. I guess we should mention Australia, because Australia have been getting better as the tournament goes on. As they've gone up, New Zealand have gone down. New Zealand have lost their last 3 matches. And that game on Saturday between New Zealand and Pakistan is another must-win game for both sides. I would like to see Pakistan win that match because they're on an upward trend. And New Zealand have got injury problems, other issues. So Pakistan or Afghanistan even could claim the 4th place in the semi-finals, because Afghanistan are the other much improved team in this tournament. They've been batting very solid. And they've got an English coach. Well, he's actually South African, isn't he? Jonathan Trott. So England can't really blame him. But he played his international for England, although I think he grew up in South Africa, didn't he?
I think so. You're mentioning Pakistan and Afghanistan possibly making it to the top 4 and securing that semi-final spot. I have to ask you this. What have you made so far of the whole entire tournament? We've seen upsets. We are seeing the defending champions struggling with only 1 win in 6 matches. Automatically, that puts them out of the race for a semi-final spot. But would you have expected the defending champions of the World Cup to come into this encounter, to come into the 2023 edition of this tournament and struggle as much as they are struggling?
Yes. In fact, I predicted it when I was on with Sunil before a ball was bowled in this tournament. I said England would struggle. I said England would do very poorly. And I think that England, I've got a phone ringing here. It can wait. I said that England would struggle because they've adopted a T20 mentality in their team selection, and preparation was very, very poor. Instead of coming out into India early and getting used to the conditions, they played a meaningless series against Ireland, who aren't even in the tournament. That was their only real preparation for this. So many of the England team have not played any 50-over cricket in a while. They've just been playing the 20-over, the 100-ball stuff. and they've adopted that same approach, and they've been found sadly lacking. And I predicted it because they've lost Owen Morgan, who was their World Cup winning champion. Joss Butler has not shown anything as a captain. And as for the coach, Matthew Mott, well, he's been missing on duty. He's not even fronted up to the press. You haven't seen anything. We haven't heard anything from him, apart from the fact that it seemed to be a complete surprise to him that the top 8 qualify for the Champions Trophy in Pakistan in 2 years' time. He didn't know that until last week. So he's, I expect him to be given the sack straight after this tournament. And you know who England are going to turn to? I think they'll go for Jonathan Trott, the Afghanistan coach. And I think he'll be taking over. That's my prediction, because there'll be big casualties. A lot of the England players will never play a one-day international again because they're all over 30, apart from Harry Brook, who's not been given a game in the last 3. He's the only player in the 20s, and they're not playing him. So all those guys who did so well in 2019 can't, there's one game too many for many of them. And I expect there to be a complete overhaul of the England team following this appalling performance, where they're likely to finish bottom, even below Netherlands.
Yeah. So you are saying that the problem in that England squad is definitely not the players, but the technical team behind the team that actually plays on the field.
Well, if this was soccer or football and a team kept losing, you would say the coach, get rid of the coach. Yeah. In cricket, we always blame the players, don't we? But actually, it's the coach who sets the tone. Mm-hmm. It's the coach who's supposed to correct these problems. Look at the impact that Simons has had in South Africa. Look at the impact that Jonathan Trott has had on Afghanistan. Not forgetting Rahul Dravid. He was known as the Wall when he was batting for India, and he's very undemonstrative. He goes about his business, but he's sorted out all the India teams across all formats, or maybe with the exception perhaps of T20. And he has been, the mastermind of this. You know what the India team's going to be before the tournament. You don't know what Team England are going to put out. They've had 3 or 4 changes every game. Well, that's no good. Players need to know their roles, don't they? In any team, you need to know your role, and that's what's been missing from England. And India have shown that every player knows his role. You know the team, and when someone does come in, like Shami, he was on the sidelines for the first few games.
Yeah,
he made an immediate impact, didn't he? And Rahul Dravid has got this India team right where it needs to be. And think, you have to look at the coach. And it's wrong you can't just blame the players. I mean, England players, each one of them should look at themselves. And more, perhaps even better, they should have watched the India innings today and seen how the India top order batsman built an innings with sensible play. Didn't just come out and try and swipe every ball. You can't. It's fine to do that in England on a sunny day. We do get some sunny days when it's a flat track and you can just sort of hit through the ball. But in India, you've got more challenging conditions. It swings, it spins, and you can't just hit and hope. And those players that think a quick 20 or 30 is sufficient in a 50-over match, no, you need to score big tons like Quentin de Kock. He scored 4 centuries, and England not yet put anyone with a century. No one who's said, right, I'm going to bat through the innings and I'm going to get a big score. They've all come in, and look at Ben Stokes. I mean, he had a few dot balls and he got impatient. He had a huge swing against India across the line, and Shami cleaned him up. And it's no good. And that the coach has got to be the one who instills that. The players should take some of the blame, but it's the coach who carries the can. Coach and captain. I mean, Bavuma, he hasn't played every game, but he's so impressive as a captain, isn't he? He knows what bowlers to bowl. He knows what to say to his team to motivate them. Bavuma is a very, very impressive captain. And I would love to see him lifting the trophy, even at the expense of India.
You have said a mouthful, and I just want to come back to what you said about India. We've seen them making quite a few changes. You've spoken about Mohammad Shami, who missed initially the first few matches for India, but coming in his first match, I think he got 3 wickets or 4, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just verify right now. How important is it then for different, we'll call them coaches, for different coaches in this World Cup to make sure that they also rotate the squad? You've just taken me through England and what they're currently going through in that squad, and as well as what's happening behind the scenes. But now coming back to rotation, how important is it for all the teams to rotate around the players so that everybody gets adjusted to the weather conditions as well, which is something England players also complained about in India, that the players found it really hot, and maybe that's why they were losing some of the matches. I believe it was an excuse. However, the importance of squad rotation, in your words.
What a terrible excuse. It's too hot. I mean,
Yeah.
what do they expect? What do they expect? A cold day in England like it is today with the rain lashing down? No, it's not going to happen. As far as
Yeah.
rotation is concerned, there's a difference between, sensible rotation and the sort of turnover that we've seen in the England camp. And I'm not sure about rotation actually in a World Cup. India haven't rotated. South Africa haven't really rotated either. They've played the same 11 or 12 players.
Yeah.
So I think people know their roles. Look at a team like Bangladesh who've been using rotation a lot. It hasn't worked. Sri Lanka have been using rotation. Hasn't worked. Kurunakaratne, difficult word to say, the opening bat today, that's his first game, I think, in the World Cup. He's a quality player. He should have been there from the word go. Angelo Matthews was airlifted in as a replacement, quality player. Sri Lanka and Bangladesh have come here with inexperienced teams. They've left out a lot of their experienced players. I mean, Bangladesh have virtually pensioned off people when they get to 30 years old. And we've seen that Kohli's about 35, I think.
Yeah.
And he's running up and down like a hare. He's massive. He's very, very, because that's the way it is these days. People stay fit much longer. I'm still playing cricket. I'm not comparing myself to Kohli, but if you keep yourself fit, active, I mean, there's no reason to pension off these players like Mahmudullah. He's one of the best players for Bangladesh, but he found himself out of the team. Tamim Iqbal, great player, not selected. So those teams that have used rotation and have got rid of their senior players have really come unstuck. And those teams with a settled team, you know what the South Africa team's going to be on Sunday. Yeah. We know it in advance. Okay, there might be one change. Shamsi may get a game, but otherwise, you know what the team's going to be, and that everyone knows their role. In that side. And the same with India. We'll probably see Shami playing on Sunday because he's outstanding performance, as you said. But they've got our Ashwin there, and he's not had a game. They haven't rotated. Got rid of Jadeja. Look at Jadeja today. If you dropped Jadeja and played Ashwin, would India have got over 350?
Absolutely
Jadeja scored at a rate of over 140 in those closing stages and demonstrated why he's in the team. And he's got a settled place. He knows he's not going to be sacked if he gets one low score or rotated, as is the current word. So I would say rotation is overplayed. I think it's dangerous in a World Cup. Maybe in bilaterals you can rotate, but in this World Cup, I think you have a settled team. Yeah, they need to play 8 or 9 on the bounce. So don't come into the tournament with players who aren't fit, like Reece Topley for England. And look at New Zealand's injury problems. Kane Williamson was not fit at the start of this tournament. So why was he in the squad? And now he's gone home. And now they've got problems, other injury problems. Matt Henry's the latest injury problem. So they're going to struggle, I think. And I would predict Pakistan to win that match. I mean, New Zealand are a tough team, and they always seem to end up in the semi-final or the final, but they're on a downward curve. And Pakistan seem to have found the right mix now with Fakhr Azam as opener and Iftikhab taking over from Shadab Khan. Providing they don't mess about and start rotating again, they found a settled team. And I would say Pakistan could be the dark horse here who sneak into the semi-finals ahead of New Zealand.
That's going to be interesting, though, because a lot of people, well, as things stand right now, it might look like New Zealand are actually letting it slip through their fingers right when it matters the most. All they have to do is just to give it a final push, but it seems to be a problem for them. Earlier on, before I forget, you mentioned something about Themba Bavuma being a very great captain for South Africa. But the concern for a lot of South Africans might be the fact that he's really struggling to get himself to at least, not so much, to just at least a 50 runs in this tournament. What are your views on that?
I hope South Africa stay with him. I know they played a couple of matches without him and they still won. But I hope they stick with him because his captaincy is excellent and he's worth his place as a captain, I think. And you said that New Zealand have let things slip through their fingers. You know, that's absolutely right. By dropping all those catches as well, they're outfielding. They literally let the ball through their fingers 3 times in that last match against South Africa, where they got completely walloped. I mean, what a huge victory. It wasn't a close game, was it? I mean, New Zealand did well to get close to Australia, but they've now lost 3 games in a row. And there is this thing called momentum. Once you've got the momentum and you start to win, you get the winning feeling. But look at it from the other side. When you start to lose, my God, it's difficult to turn it round, isn't it? When you get that losing feeling, you get a sinking feeling. And I think that's what New Zealand are struggling with now. I mean, Tom Latham's decision to bat first, to put South Africa in, I beg your pardon, when he won the toss and decided to put them in. What was that about? I mean, South Africa has shown every time that if you let them bat first, they'll score big. Quentin de Kock loves to take first knock. If he has to come out after keeping wicket, he might be more tired. And he might find it more difficult, especially when the lights come on. But, you know, the decision of Tom Latham, the New Zealand captain, to allow South Africa to bat first, having won the toss, he invited them to bat in daylight. Very, very fresh batsman for South Africa. It makes no sense. How do you recover from a mistake like that? He knows he made a mistake, even if he doesn't admit it. And the rest of the team will know he made a mistake. So how does he assert his captaincy authority after slipping up like that? I mean, how do you recover from that?
Exactly. That is a very good question. How do you recover from that? But, you know, I do hear you and I do understand your point when you're saying that South Africa has to stand and rally behind Themba Bavuma as the captain. You've already mentioned that he's a very key player in terms of just giving motivation to the players and everybody else involved in that team. Talking about South Africa, they've broken quite a few records since the very first match against Sri Lanka. You know, we still hold the highest total in the World Cup. That is a 423 or 28, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, yesterday, breaking that 24 years winless streak against Pakistan also, the last match that we played against Pakistan, and also the match that we played yesterday. Do you think this might be finally that time for South Africa to just clinch this title, considering all the records that they've broken?
This is the strongest South African team I've seen since those terrible days of apartheid when they only picked white players. I mean, and that's what I love. It's a multiracial team. They're together.
Yeah.
You know, under Boucher, it just didn't feel right to me. I think the change of coach and getting rid of Boucher, you know, I think he favoured his friends in that setup. Now it feels like the team are really together, and I think the team spirit, you know, will carry them through. I mean, Bavuma may decide to drop himself. He's that type of player. He's that type of captain that he may decide to say, look, I'm not scoring runs. And Markram showed what a good captain he was in absence. So I wouldn't put it past Bavuma to drop himself, because then there's a place for Shamsi in the team too, which may strengthen the team. But I hope he doesn't do that, because he deserves this. He's been a very successful captain outside of the World Cup. He's shown that he is able to motivate all his team. The sense of togetherness from all the players, whatever race they are, it's irrelevant. This is a new South Africa, and this team represents a new South Africa. And look at the way that cricket has been re-energized in South Africa. They had a very successful T20 last year, where the crowds all came out. Again, multiracial crowds, not just a white crowd. You know, because historically cricket was the white game and soccer was the game, for, everyone else. That seems to be past. And I think if South Africa can win the World Cup, even if they make the final, what they've done already surely will excite people of all races in South Africa to get behind this team. And it will be the promise of, this new era in South African cricket. And I really welcome that. And they've lit up this World Cup. You must have absolutely been delighted with the Proteas.
I mean, it's been an absolute marvel to watch them every single time, especially when they bat first. It's been amazing. I think you are right to say that this is the strongest South African team that we've had in years. So yes, I will put my money on the table and say this might be the team that finally wins us that championship trophy that we've been waiting for so long. And of course, this would mean so much to a lot of people back home. David, I just want to get your insights right now to the match that's currently underway between India and Sri Lanka. We're seeing the current score right now is a 14-4. Not looking too good for Sri Lanka. They seem to be struggling in that match. Do you think there's any chance that they'll even make it to 100 runs at this point?
At the Asia Cup final, they only made it to 50. And that in the last two games against India, they've now scored 53 runs for 14 wickets. India have taken 14 wickets, including that Asia Cup game. So I think they may get 100. They'll struggle to get there. I mean, when I was on with Tasnin and Sunil earlier on today, I predicted a crushing victory for India by over 100 runs. I think we might see a 200-run victory now.
Yeah.
And, it's just a question of when, not if. If you lose four wickets for 14, there's no way back from that. Look at the asking rate now. The required run rate will be probably 10 and over now. It's not going to happen. And it's an opportunity for India to wrap this game up nice and quickly. They can then have a nice rest before their next encounter, the big one against South Africa.
It's definitely a big one, I would say, for South Africa, because as things stand, India winning this match against Sri Lanka today guarantees them a spot into the semi-final, and they are officially the first team into the semi-final. So that match will be a very big one for South Africa. I will put it like that. So for Sri Lanka, it's as good as done, right? There's nothing that can be done to redeem themselves in today's match.
There's nothing you can do other than book your flight home. I think some of them wish they were at home now, although I'm not sure what sort of reception they get when they do go back there. They won't be getting any medals, that for sure, apart from, as you say, the guy that got the 6 wickets today, who at least can take something from this tournament. But it's been very disappointing for Sri Lanka. And to finish in this style, I mean, it's a disintegration. They must have been watching England. They probably watched the England match, and they've seen England disintegrate, and they think, oh, we'll do that as well. There's been no real fight back. And to lose the 4 wickets for 14, I mean, there's no way back from that. If this was a test match, they will struggle to get to 100. I think you're right. I think we'll say, will they get past 50, the score they made in the Asia Cup final immediately before this tournament against India, when they were humiliated in the final? I'm not sure they're going to make 50.
I mean, okay, fine, they may lose out on this, on this title, but there's still something else to be played for. The top seven, the most important, I think, teams that will not be able to make it to the semifinals, they may be consoled by the fact that they may still qualify for, the championship trophy that will be taking place in 2025. What are your views on that one?
Well, of course, Sri Lanka had to qualify for this tournament. They had to have a very difficult task. I think it was in Zimbabwe, wasn't it? The qualifying tournament. And they got through that. That was a tricky assignment because West Indies didn't get through it. West Indies is my team, and they're not in this tournament. I may live in England, but my team is West Indies. That's who I support. I've supported them since the age of 5 when I first saw them play in England. And I think it's disappointing that West Indies are not here, and they've also been excluded from the Champions Trophy because of this strange announcement last week that only that the top 8, it's actually the top 7 plus the host nation Pakistan will qualify for the Champions Trophy. Now, I didn't know that until last week, but Joss Butler says he did know it. Yet the coach for England, Matthew Mott, said he didn't know it. Well, don't they talk to each other? Don't they realize what's happening? At the moment, the only likelihood is that England won't qualify for the Champions Trophy. Oh my God, that would be big. And if that happens, there will be a night of very long knives. In fact, you can hear, if you listen very carefully, the knives sharpening back at Lord's now. The English press are not happy. People are already discussing how many of this team will survive. I don't think many of them will. Harry Brook will be there. He represents the future. And a lot of these guys, they won the World Cup. They opted out of playing any 50 over or any first-class cricket like Joss Butler. He hasn't played a first-class match since he was dropped from the Test match team. If he was really serious about his cricket, he'd have played for Lancashire, his county, and tried to get back into the Test match team. But he's been playing the franchises, and that's fine. It's good for his bank balance. But I'm not his bank manager. So I don't care about that. I care about, and I think England fans will care about the results, not his bank balance. And, Jason Roy, who people said should have been opening in this tournament, well, he showed his priorities. During an English cricket season, he opted out of playing for Surrey in order to play for the Los Angeles Cowboys, or whatever they're called, in the American Super League. So he opted out of his English contract to play a 20-over competition. And that's why he's not here. Reece Topley, who opened the bowling for England, he can't bowl more than 4 overs on the trot, was never going to stay fit for the entire tournament. Moeen Ali had to be persuaded. He had to be coaxed into playing in the Ashes. Can you imagine having to be persuaded to play in an Ashes series? I mean, let's give him a miss as well. And probably Adil Rashid. Adil Rashid has got some business interest now. He's opened a fish and chip shop in Yorkshire, and that apparently spends more time there than he does at Yorkshire. He doesn't bother with the 50 over. He doesn't bother with first-class cricket. And all the guys who are doing well in this tournament, they're multi-format players who know what it takes to build an innings or to take wickets. And so expect big changes in the England setup directly after this tournament.
Can I ask you something on a very lighter note? You are from the UK, but you seem to not have quite a lot of good things to say about your fellow countrymen, that being England. What is the problem there?
Well, look, if England are winning as they did in their Test match side is really good. About Bazball, the name given to England's attacking approach in Test cricket. And that's really worked because they've got a great captain in Ben Stokes and a really good coach in Baz McCullum, from New Zealand. But who was the last coach of England before that? Chris Silverwood, who pops up again in this match as the coach of Sri Lanka. He failed with England and he failed with Sri Lanka. Yes, I live in England. I support West Indies. My second team is South Africa and my third team is India. And England come up 4th because they're not producing, and everyone else in England supports them. Well, I travel a lot to watch cricket, you know, and I've spent 2 years working in West Indies just covering their domestic cricket. So I've got more of an affinity with West Indies cricket. And I love cricket in India because of the enthusiasm of the crowd and what it means to people in India. I'm sure it's very exciting to be in India for this tournament. I wish I was there with you. I might try and persuade Sunil to fly me over for the England-India Test series that follows in January. Now that will be fun because India at the moment will roll over England. That's for sure. I mean, Ben Stokes, he retired from one-day cricket in order to extend his Test match career, but he was persuaded, cajoled into playing in this tournament against his better judgment. Joss Butler said, "Oh, come on, Ben, you won us the last World Cup. Come and play in the World Cup." He's meant to be having surgery on his knee. That was what he was planning to do. So his surgery is being postponed. How can you play with only one knee? I mean, he does perform miracles. He does perform miracles, but that's expecting too much for him. So England will be going into a Test series against India in January with an injured captain and injured pride. And I predict that India will storm through England in that series. And I'd love to be in India to see it because cricket means so much in India. You know, cricket in England, well, it comes second. It comes second after soccer. You know, football takes soccer is number one, and cricket. It's only when England start to win that people get involved with the England team. And after this performance, I'm afraid it's going to be soccer
they
all the
won't
way.
have any support after this performance.
England supporters, a bit like West Indies supporters. You know, where have all the West Indies supporters gone? Well, they keep losing. You know. And if they keep losing, don't expect people to show up. It's not like soccer where you turn up to watch your team because you've been following them for years and you follow them through thick and thin. It doesn't work like that in international cricket. If your team isn't winning, you don't turn up and you don't support them until they do start winning. And
it's as simple as that.
Simple as that.
Yeah. As we wrap things up, David, I just want to put you on the spot and say, give me the teams that you think will be part of that top four. I know already India is in that one. South Africa do have 1 foot in the semifinals. You said that New Zealand is not going to be a part of that. Just take me through your top four on the spot.
My top four would be India, South Africa, Australia, and I'm going to go for Pakistan, but I want to qualify that. You never know what Pakistan team is going to turn up. You don't know whether they're going to be world beaters or sometimes they're terrible. I just hope that on Saturday at the early match, there's 2 games on Saturday. The first one, the early one, is New Zealand versus Pakistan. I really hope that the Pakistan team that we saw in the last game turns up. They've removed Inzamam Al-Haq from being chairman of selectors. I think that's very good because he was picking his nephew above Fakhar Zaman. And that was nepotism, isn't it? When you pick relatives to play in your team, that's just straightforward nepotism. And there's been far too much of that in Pakistan cricket. Pick the best 11. And the best 11 played very well in that last match. And against, who is it they beat? Bangladesh. They beat Bangladesh on Tuesday. Pick your best 11. And Pakistan, I think, will win that. So my 4th place will be Pakistan. But the team I really like to see is Afghanistan in the 4th place. They've still got an outside chance. They're playing Netherlands on Friday. That should be a comfortable win for them. And then I think their next game after that is against Australia. I mean, Australians will look down on Afghanistan. You know, Australians refused to tour there last year. They didn't think they were worth playing, so they just pulled out of the tour. And I'd love to see Afghanistan sneak a win in that. But then they have to play South Africa next Friday, the 10th. So it's a tough run-in for Afghanistan. Whereas Pakistan, they're going to play against a depleted New Zealand team. And then they've got, what's the next game after that for Pakistan? England. They're playing England. So that's an easy one. And Eden Gardens Eden Gardens won't hold too many good memories for England. So I think Pakistan with England to play, that happens next Saturday, I think it is, or Sunday, not this weekend, the weekend after. So anyone that says, "Oh, it's too long a tournament, there are too many matches," some of the England fans are saying that. It's rubbish, isn't it?
It is.
I like format because there's plenty of scope for changes and for ups and downs and for teams to go into form or out of form. And I'm looking forward to that game as well. So that's week on Saturday, England versus Pakistan at Eden Gardens. I mean, England have disintegrated so much. I'm not sure there's going to be any of them left, enough people left to play that match. When you've got a squad of 15, you haven't got many to choose from. It's a bit tough that having to pick from only 15 players when you've got 9 games in a fortnight, 2 or 3 weeks. Given that Pakistan have a more easier run than Afghanistan, I would, in answer to your question, I got there eventually. Pakistan is my choice of 4th team in the semi-final. So England for the wooden spoon. England will carry, do you know the wooden spoon that we get for finishing last? England should finish last, and it would be Australia, India, South Africa, and Pakistan for me. How about you?
Definitely I'll be bringing you back to account for that. I think for me, the top 4 as it is, I believe that will be the semi-finals. Of course, that will be if New Zealand do pick up, just pull up their socks, because they're almost there. They just need to give it their all in the last remaining matches. But David, I am not alone. I am with a fellow colleague of mine, Tandi. I believe that she would like to ask you a few questions as well, or if she has something to say to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Hello, David.
Hello, Tanzin. Your stats have been invaluable.
Oh, thank you.
You've become a stats guru.
Thank you. I just have a few questions here. I know I've been discussing mostly with Naledi here about the way Sri Lankans have been performing of lately. I've been trying to support them here and there, but it seems like it's not working on my side. What would you think the coach or the captain would be saying right now in the current state of what's happening right now at the pitch?
So which captain were you talking about there? I just missed which team we're talking about.
We're talking about the Sri Lanka and India game. What's happening right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
If I was the coach, if I was Chris Silverwood, the coach of Sri Lanka, I would be preparing my farewell speech. I would thank everyone for the opportunity. I would wish everyone well and cross my fingers that I'm going to get a 3rd chance with a 3rd. I think my feeling is that Chris Silverwood will have to go back to domestic cricket and, go back to a county because there's no one there. There's no one. I mean, there's no other place for him to go. And as I said, I think you've got to look at the coaches that are doing really well in this tournament, like Jonathan Trott at Afghanistan. They'll be the ones filling the jobs in the future.
And also, I was also seeing how the partnership in the first innings of India when they were playing, they were mostly not doing so well, but the way they were building up the partnership compared to what's happening to Sri Lanka, really, most of them in Sri Lanka team members, they're all coming out with the zeros. So it's like, what should they do, which is really different, which India was doing right and Sri Lanka is doing wrong currently?
Now, that's a tough question, Tanzin. You came out with the stats earlier about Virat Kohli, about his amazing achievements. If you tried to pick a team out of all the India team and Sri Lanka team, how many Sri Lankans would make that team? If you had to pick one team out of the 2, maybe the opening bowler got 6 wickets, but I can't think of anyone who would make, because India have got a very, very talented crop of players and one of the best Indian teams we've seen in a long time. I can't think of anything to say to the Sri Lankans to get them out of this mess. I would say to them, sort yourselves out. There's too much politics in Sri Lankan cricket, and it's influencing the selection. You should base your team selection on their performances on the cricket field, not anything else. And I'm afraid Sri Lanka, everyone says, all the Sri Lankan friends I've got, and we've got a big Sri Lankan community in the UK, and they're cricket mad. But they would say, whenever I say, what's gone wrong with Sri Lanka in this tournament? And they all say the same thing, politics. They say politics influencing the board, politics influencing selection. And there's no place for that. Administrators looking for power just to improve their own status. Yes, that's a common theme, isn't it? We've seen it in the West Indies, but maybe we've seen it in Zimbabwe as well. Politics interfering. There was a spell when politics was getting in the way of South Africa too, but we're through that now. And you've got to get rid of all that, because what does politics really mean? It means people making decisions not based on cricket. That's foolish.
Definitely. And also, based on what you had said in terms of the politics part, we can't really say much about it. But I like the way in the first innings, Sri Lankans guys played. For example, the legs of Madashankar, yes. He took 5 wickets. That shows he wasn't scared to face the Indian team. What would you really say about the way he performed compared to what other people were expecting from him?
Make him captain straight after the tournament. Reward success. Reward success. Don't reward failure. And, I mean, Kushal Mendes has taken over the captaincy. He wasn't captain at the start of the tournament because of the injury to the first Sri Lankan captain. And since he's taken over the captaincy, they've lost. And his own batting has disintegrated. So some captains wear the responsibility really well and their game improves. Other captains, they suffer under the weight of responsibility, don't they? And there are 2 types of captain: those that improve their game when they're captain, and one thinks of Virat Kohli as a great example of that. When they took the captaincy away from Virat Kohli far too early, in my view, his form dropped off because he is a natural leader. What's been good about seeing him in this tournament is that he is now found his place as a senior professional, working closely with Rohit Sharma. So he's discovered his peace of mind, if you like. And the same with Quentin de Kock. He's had a spell as captain. There was that business with taking the knee and all that politics stuff that got in the way, didn't it? And whereas you could tell from the very first ball in this tournament, you could see from the intensity and the look on his face that his mind was clear and he was focused on the cricket. And you've got to give some credit to Bavuma, I think, for creating those conditions, and the coach, Eric Simons. I think it's Simons, when you haven't got that cohesion and when you've got people falling out with another. I mean, look at Bangladesh. I mean, before the tournament started, Shakib Al Hussain, the captain, went out of his way to criticize the previous captain, Tamim Iqbal. That sort of disagreement between players, it rubs off on the rest of the team. Just like in soccer, when, if players are arguing amongst themselves, even fighting amongst themselves at times, how can you expect them to perform? So you need a cohesive team unit. And India is showing that. South Africa is showing that. Afghanistan is showing that. I'm not sure that New Zealand will be able to continue in that vein now that Tom Latham has screwed up so badly.
Definitely. Because also I'm seeing the current score right now. Sri Lanka is on 22 runs of 7 in 11.3. Like what you and Naledi were discussing about that. It's going to be a struggle for the team.
How many wickets down?
7.
Oh my God. So you're
and of
absolutely
which
right. Was it you,
and of,
Nilady, who said that? Did you say, Nilady, that they wouldn't get to 50? They're not going to get to 50. You're right.
it's
They
going to
won't.
be a struggle. And of which right now currently Bumrah he has 1 wicket and Mohammed Sirja he has 3 and then Shami is on 3. It shows that they're really cruising right here.
I mean, India opened the bowling with Mohammed Siraj today
Mm-hmm.
because of his record against Sri Lanka. He loves playing against Sri Lanka. He got 5 or 6, I think, in the Asia Cup final against them. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so they open with him. So Shami has to wait again to come on first change. And he's what you're saying is he's immediately come on and taken 3. 22 for 7. Oh dear.
Yes.
I think Sri Lanka, I'm beginning to feel sorry now because I've got a lot of Sri Lankan friends in this country. They love their cricket. They will not
Yeah.
be enjoying this one little bit. It is a humiliation, isn't it? And the winning margin likely to be the largest winning margin of any team in this tournament
Definitely.
because India are 330. They could win by over 300 runs, and I don't think we've seen that yet in the
No.
tournament. Have we seen a 300-run victory? I know South Africa came close against England. I think they won by over 250 runs in that game. But to see a team winning by over 300 runs, who are the not-out batsmen for Sri Lanka, Tanzin? Is there any chance of a late flurry? Is my man Angelo Matthews still in?
For now, we have Angelo Matthews and Mahash Tekshanen. So far, they're the ones who are still in. Then we've got Rajita and Madhu Shankar, who haven't started betting yet.
Well, the best chance there is Angelo Matthews. I mean, he's the former captain. And I'll tell you something interesting about him. He was criticized by the Sri Lankan board for being overweight. They said he wasn't fit enough. I mean, the guy's got loads of talent, and he doesn't need to be told what his weight should be. I mean, West Indies have got a player called Cornwall, Rakeem Cornwall, Jimmy as he's known. He's 17, 18 stone. I think that Angelo Matthews has responded to the criticism, and he's back in the team. He looks quite lean compared to perhaps what he was, but he's still there, not out. You'd back him to be the highest scorer and maybe get 10 or 20 to get them up to 50.
Yeah.
But when you're coming in at 22 for 7, well, I mean, all hope is lost. You know, what would you do? You both play the game. What would you do coming in at 22 for 7, chasing 350 odd?
Honestly, I'll be demotivated, but I'll just tell myself this is the World Cup where everyone just has to put in their maximum best. It might not cover much, but I would definitely try my best to at least make it for myself right now, because as a team, we're struggling and won't go far. But at least I would look at my personal stats and be like, hey, I just need a 50 or at least 30 runs on this board. So it's now a matter of them coming in and doing it for themselves other than trying to help for the team. Because right now, 23 for 7 in 12.2 overs, that's still quite a long way. It will feel like it's forever, really. But currently, I'm seeing Angelo Matthews, like with the way you're saying, is quite good. He's the highest so far scoring in the team right now. He has 12 runs of 24 balls, as much as the strike rate is 50%. But currently, he's the best person we can just look forward to and continue cheer him on. So it's one of those you need to stay positive for the sake of those who are remaining behind. But
the lady, I'm going to ask you the same question. What would you do coming in at 22 for 7 when the world is watching in a World Cup?
I feel like you're already being set up for failure. Like you said, like Tandy is saying, there is literally no way that you're going to, just save the team from that embarrassing, defeat against India. But of course, it is against India, so maybe it might be acceptable. So all you have to do is just play for yourself. If you need 5 runs to a certain milestone, just focus on that. Make it about yourself, because as a team, the game is done. The game is over.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got the world watching, as you say, it's a
Yeah.
World Cup. So you're on the world stage. You're not just
Yeah.
playing for personal pride, you're playing
Yeah.
for your reputation. And,
Yeah.
everyone will want IPL contract or, the opportunity to make a name for themselves. And I mean,
Yeah.
Angela Matthews will have a particular point to prove, because he'll want to show that it was wrong to leave him out for the original squad. So I don't expect him to give his wicket away, and I'll predict he'll be the not out batsman at the end, because he's got
Definitely.
something to prove.
Yeah. Based on your view, David, what who would you partner Angela Matthews with? Like, if there was a chance to redeem Sri Lanka's status right now, would you put them in the crease right now, like for them to help the team up?
Well, the people I'd have chosen are already out. So unless it's like one of those games that you play where you give
Yeah.
you give people a second chance and you say, "I'll come
Uh,
back out," because we're winning so easily. If it was what we
uh,
call in England a beer match, where you're playing for beer, you'd say, "Oh,
yeah.
guys, you didn't score any runs, for come out again." Unfortunately, in the World Cup, I don't think the regulations allow for that. They
Yeah.
didn't last time I looked. There's no one really in the tail end who's going to hang around with him. So this game should be over, within what, half an hour probably. And India will take a lot from this, because it is a crushing victory, and well, the fans will enjoy it anyway, because it's a full house at the Wankhede Stadium. So I think they'll just take cover, the rest of them.
Yeah. True. Very.
David, we thank you so much for your time, and we will definitely be bringing you back to just talk more about cricket. And of course, you've made a very bold predictions
Yeah.
in as far as the semi-final sport title race is concerned, bringing in Pakistan at number 4 and saying that Afghanistan might also stun a lot of people. In closing, I don't know if Tandy would like to say anything. But yeah, so
Well,
far
I would like to say something. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. I've really enjoyed this conversation and all the exchanges I've had. Keep going, guys. You're doing a brilliant job and building a great network. And it's about time that the fans, we are, representing the fans' view of the game,
Yeah.
not just
thank you
administrators.
so
Thank you.
much.
So I'm really
Um.
enjoying the coverage. Keep it going.
Oh yes. Well, you're still in, David.
Yeah,
I've
we're
got
not
more
letting you go
questions.
just now.
Oh,
I just saw
in
this.
fact,
When.
I've got to go because I'm on commentary duty here in the UK for Guerrilla
Oh,
Cricket,
okay.
who are one of the partners with Indian Cricket Fan, and I'm going to be doing the last rights now. I'm going on ball by ball commentary on Guerrilla Cricket at guerrillacricket.com. I hope Sunil won't mind me just plugging that, and it's also on Twitter, Guerrilla Cricket. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do. I've got to sneak off, but I
Oh,
look forward
just
to
one
coming
more
back on with
question.
you guys anytime. Oh, go on. One last.
Okay. Okay. One more question. Who would you think will get the fifer? Like, will take 5 wickets from India?
Shami.
Your prediction?
I think, well, it's either Shami or Siraj. They might end up with 4 each.
Yeah.
But either way, no one's going to. I mean, don't. Oh, well, Bumrah's still got to come back, hasn't he? Bumrah's got overs left in hand. And so Bumrah will come in with 3 wickets probably. And the other 2 will end up with 4 each. Oh, hold on. That's 11. 4 for Siraj, 3 for Shami. No, 4 for Shami, 3 for Siraj, 3 for Bumrah.
And yeah, and I'm seeing it here right now. Shami just took another wicket. Is now on 4. So, well, you were right there.
I should be making money off this in the fantasy leagues
Oh
because
yes.
I would have pitched
it
in my
just got
fantasy
more
11.
interesting.
Yeah, well,
And
it does
also
always matter.
the other thing, Angela Matthews is gone. So
The man
hey,
we're relying on.
I don't know who's going to save
Thank.
Sri Lanka right now.
No one can save them. I hope that I'm glad I didn't put Angelo Matthews into my fantasy team because he's hasn't had a fantastic game, has he? There's been no redemption for Angelo
Yeah,
Matthews in this one.
yeah.
Let me go and do the last rites on Gorilla Cricket. And thank you very much, the lady and
Thank
to
you.
Tanzin. It's been great talking to you guys.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much. That very interesting views actually from David saying that as Sri Lanka, the game was over, and
Yeah,
also with the wicket now that just fell in from the key player that we were looking forward to seeing
exactly.
and just making a name for himself in Angelo Matthews,
Mhm.
just falling off. It seems to me, I don't think that this game will actually see the 20th over. I feel like it's as good as done right now. Currently, they are on 13.1 overs. I think that if they ever make it to 20 overs, would have been a stretch for them. Are probably good, but as things stand, it's as good as done. Tandy.
Well, currently with the state which is going right now, you might be right, but in the sense that they still have more balls to face and there's no rush really. So even if when they are on the ninth wicket, if they continue to block that ball, I'm sure they can push it. Now it's a matter of the runs. The wicket, the runs, yeah,
That's what
them
they
reaching
need.
the 50 mark, I don't know. And I think this is quite an interesting game. Like what you said earlier, it seems like it's a easy game to
For
win,
India.
an easy
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
But the way they played the first innings, it gives almost everyone besides, okay, including me, hope that it won't be an easy win for the Indian guys in the sense that they managed to take out people quickly. And there was one of the players with 5 wickets, which is good. You wouldn't find that with an
Yeah.
Indian team. But now with the betting side, it shows they used what they were good at, which is their advantage, bowling. They bowled first, which is what they're good at. Now it's the betting now, which is kind of a struggle. And whereas for India, they're well balanced. They've got both the bowlers and the batters. So if one end slacks, the other one kicks in. So it's a tricky one.
Let's wrap it up. We'll come and discuss about it tomorrow. But before we do, it seems like none of us will be getting chocolate tomorrow because you said they'll be winning by just over 100 runs. And
Yeah.
I think I might have been close because I said by over 200. But as it seems, or if it ends the way that it is currently, it is by over 300 runs.
So we're
would
both
be-
wrong.
So we're both wrong. And that would be a new record
Yeah.
in the tournament this time around.
Mhm.
With the team winning by over 300 runs.
Wow.
That on its own is historic.
At this sense, I think it will be 300 plus because seems like it has been stagnant for too long. But either way, I'm sure they all went out there. They didn't have that mentality of we're going to lose either way, but they
Yeah.
just put in that fight and the fact that it's not for zero, sure. So it's a good thing for them.
Mm. So yeah, we're going to be leaving it here, and thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow with our watch along, and we'll be doing tomorrow's game. It is the Netherlands up against Afghanistan. Afghanistan still looking forward to that top 4 spot. It is not all done, but if they win tomorrow's match, they will be just one step closer, and hope that New Zealand will be breaking down as well. But as to wrap it up, let's bring in Tasman just to put her on the spot. She'll be telling me about her top 4, and then we'll be done for the day because we've already discussed that match with David Brooks as well as Tandy, and now we just want to hear her predictions. How is this match going to end? As she comes in, not looking too good, 36 for 8. That is for Sri Lanka against India. India looking to continue with their cruising of this tournament, looking back on what they did in that match. It's going to be great. We're gonna see how it ends. But Tasman, thank you so much for joining me.
Definitely my pleasure.
You've heard us talk to David Brooks. Very long conversation that we've had with him. I've also had a chat with Tandy. You pretty much heard everything. And I
Yeah.
know that you probably share the same sentiments with us that Sri Lanka as seeing flames right now as things stand.
Oh yeah, definitely. We knew that the Indian bowling attack this morning, they've had Shami, they've had Siraj, and not to mention Bumrah just firing on all cylinders so far throughout this tournament.
Yeah.
It was always going to be challenging for them, today. And I think, kudos to the best team today, and that's definitely India, be it with bat and ball in hand as well.
Just give me your predictions. I mean, this game is good as done. Just give me what you think is going to happen from here. They down by 8 wickets. I said to Tani that I don't think they're going to make it over to 20 overs in this match.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a lot. We know that this is the point in time where they will look to bring Bumrah back, and there's no other better master for me of the Yorker than Bumrah. That is. So I think they'll definitely bring him back to have a go at these guys and just clean up the tail. I agree with you that they may not see 20 overs. I think that this just might be the lowest current ODI win score of the tournament as well, and giving India another record again just to cancel and add on into their books today of having, won by the biggest run margin as well.
And of course, India now will be, just making a record for themselves, unbeaten, 8 over 8 matches, cruising very nicely. But do you think it's a very good thing that they will be finishing this, this group stage unbeaten, invincible? Because as far as you go to the semi-finals, there'll be no chances, no spaces for mistake. One mistake, you are out.
Yeah, definitely. You take nothing away from them. They're playing good cricket right now, and it's gonna be big. Of course, two things can happen: either they get overconfident, or they just carry on with the momentum they currently have from the group stages and carry it on as well into the semi-finals. Of course, that's do or die. There's no room for error after that.
Talking about the matches, we just wrapped up to that one. Let's talk about what we can expect in tomorrow's match, Netherlands and Afghanistan. Afghanistan are also still very much alive in that race to the semi-final spot.
Yeah, definitely. They've been playing great cricket. Afghanistan, like I've mentioned earlier today, is playing in their second home. They feel India's a second home. They've played a lot of their matches out here. It's evident in the crowds that are turning up for every Afghanistan game as well. And they're pretty comfortable. They're looking so comfortable. They're looking so good. And for me, they're the tiger in the jungle. They're quiet but still as lethal. So I think, they came out here with a purpose, but they will be up against a team tomorrow that just believes they're here purposed as well in their own. Can't write off Netherlands just easy. They do have a win over South Africa, giving them a bit of a chip on their shoulder as well, and letting them know that they can do it. So I think it's going to be a brilliant match tomorrow between, obviously, Afghanistan and Netherlands. I'd like to know who you backing in that one.
I mean, I think I would be going for Afghanistan for personal reasons. Actually, not even personal anymore. You know what Netherlands did to my team. So for that very reason, I'll be going for any team that will be playing against Netherlands. So I am definitely going with Afghanistan for that game tomorrow.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say you guys should just watch out as well for the Netherlands. They might just put up one on you again, and you might be feeling a bit bored with them as well again tomorrow.
But what are they playing for? Because Afghanistan now are playing for that top 4 spot. With Netherlands, the best they can get is at least a top 7 spot.
Yeah, playing for the top 7 is a big deal for Netherlands. They're still considered as an associate members nation. That means they do not have test playing status. That then in turn means that they don't get to play the likes of Australia and England, and well, England might not see themselves in the Champions Trophy.
Absolutely.
But South Africa and India and any team that's in the top 7, they get a chance to get more fixtures against them. And regardless of the fact of whether you're playing opposition that's stronger than you and losing, you definitely will continue to improve, as opposed to them just constantly playing the likes of Scotland and Ireland, and occasionally and they're getting in a game against the test playing nation. So Netherlands is still definitely fighting to stay alive and be in that top 7 spot, looking for a Champions Trophy fixtures.
So every team now currently is playing for something. If you're not playing for that top 7 spot, you're definitely chasing the semi-final spot. As we wrap things up, I'm going to put you on the spot like I did with everybody else. Give me your predictions for the top 4 spot. Well, top 3 now. India has already made it to the semi-final.
Yeah, definitely. So you have India in there. I might not place them at number 1 just yet. They got a big game for themselves coming up this weekend against South Africa.
Yeah.
That will more or less give you your first position and second position. But definitely India in there, South Africa in there as well. And I'm looking to Pakistan to cause a bit of drama and get Australia out of there, and just squeeze their way up into that top 4.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to go with India, South Africa, possibly New Zealand, and as well as Pakistan. Question mark for me on Australia because they're currently missing Mitchell Marsh, and he's a key part of their batting lineup as well right now, which means a lot of pressure falls back onto the likes of Steve Smith, who's been hot and cold throughout this tournament.
Yeah.
David Warner, he's firing, but like any other human, we've seen Virat Kohli come out with the zero. They only fall to error as well at times. So it's a big responsibility on Warner and Smith right now for them to come through and perform as well. So I believe that Australia right now shouldn't get too comfortable.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned the game that's coming on Sunday between India and South Africa, saying whoever that wins that one will obviously be top of the table. Would you say that should South Africa beat India, they have a chance to make it to the final? I know it's a bit of a stretch, but do you think that they stand a chance to make it to the final?
Yeah, definitely. You know, they're gonna find themselves playing if they make themselves the top of the final, they find themselves playing the fourth place matchup. In this instance, in my instance, that would be Pakistan. And I'd prefer that a lot earlier, you know, that they don't play India just before the final. If they're meeting, let them meet each other in the final. So definitely, I think Sunday's game is a prelude for us to see more or less where things are going to end up.
Yeah, Tasmin, thank you so much for your time. We'll do this hopefully again tomorrow. All right.
Thank you, Naledi, for having me.
Thank you so much. We'll be back again tomorrow for that match against Pakistan, Afghanistan, who are looking forward to make it to the top four. But will Netherlands allow them to do that at their own expense? We will find out tomorrow on match number 36 of 45 in this tournament.